if you're going to spend, the 90,000 hours in your lifetime working, why not aim those hours at something that builds upon itself, something that builds momentum, something that eventually, after enough front-loaded effort and time, you can reduce how much time you're working, spend it with your family or traveling or playing music, whatever it is you want to spend your time doing. Welcome back to Struggle and Strive. I'm your host, Estel Wallace. We are in the series on career and finances, and today we're going to cover the subject of job versus career, and we're going to talk about the compound effect of experience. When I've taken jobs in the past, it was because I needed money. Not like I need money any less today, but I was in a place of desperation, and I wasn't really looking at my life with a lot of intention, and I took a job just to get myself from point A to point B. I just need to pay rent. I just need to feed my kids. I just need to fill in the blank with whatever my need is right at that time. And a job is really a mindset, because you can work what many people would call a job with a career mindset, and it can really shift the entire trajectory of your career. For example, Subway is an interesting example. Subway sounds like even if you're making 30 or 40 grand a year and you're really struggling, Subway doesn't sound like a big step up, does it? Be a sandwich artist. Let me tell you the interesting things about working at a Subway as an example of shifting mindset, really, from job to career. If you were to go get a job at a Subway, the Subway ecosystem is really, really small. You're only working with 2 to 5 other coworkers and a manager in a very small retail outlet. That being said, the retail outlet is owned by a franchisee, so an entrepreneur so the owner is only a couple of steps away. You're only 2 positions away from direct access to ownership, and typically owners, they don't have one, they have anywhere between 2 and 6 locations. So if you're looking at working at Subway as sort of a career path, I'm not suggesting that you go to work at Subway, I'm just giving you an example. If I were making $0 and I needed a job, if I went to Subway, I could get a job. A couple of things are true. 1, I'm going to start getting paid. 2, I could probably eat for free. I don't know what their policy is. If your policy is not to feed your employees, I'm sorry I said that. I'm imagining they'll probably slide you a sandwich per shift. So if you can get yourself fed and you're earning a paycheck, that's a great place to start. In addition to that, you're working in a small ecosystem where you can learn the entire org chart really fast. So what's it going to take to be the manager of your 3 or 4 cohorts? Well, all you have to do is put in a little elbow grease. That doesn't take any education or additional resource other than your calorie burning energy. Likewise, just showing up, asking questions, showing up early, staying late, working harder than the people next to you. That type of work ethic, which again doesn't take any education, credentials, or even experience, you can just start with it. That is a superpower in a space like Subway, where they probably have relatively high turnover. I would say most restaurants probably have pretty high turnover. So you work at Subway, you get in, now you're working with a bunch of other people that are probably working a job, so they're not taking it very seriously, but you are. So you study not only do you become the baddest sandwich artist in that joint, you also start to observe, what does the manager do? When does he do drops? When does he do the counts? How does he order the additional supplies for food? How does he interact with the regional manager or the owner? You do that enough months in a row consecutively, guess what happens when the manager gets fired or grows out of that position and goes to something else? You're going to be the next pick to be the manager. Now you've increased your income significantly, you've increased your responsibility, and you're increasing your skill stack. And this is all from working at Subway. So now you've increased your position significantly, you're learning more, you've got better experience, you're learning how to manage a restaurant. And from there, let's assume that the owner has 6 restaurants. That means he's probably got a GM. He's probably got a general manager that bounces between all the managers of all the restaurants. So again, if you can outwork the other managers at the other 5 locations, you're going to be the next pick to be the general manager. And once you're that general or regional manager, you're right next to the owner. You're working directly for an entrepreneur who's likely a millionaire, who has likely read some of the financial books that we're going to talk about, has likely learned a lot of tax advantages that the common person doesn't know and doesn't utilize. They would be a wealth of information. Once you're in that position, you're only a couple of steps probably and alone from becoming a franchisee owner yourself. There are some pretty miraculous stories. I'm not gonna be able to recount one verbatim or anything, but if you Google around, you can find multiple millionaires in the world that are in the McDonald's franchise world that are franchise owners, that are franchisees, that started as an entry-level flipping burgers at a McDonald's location, and now they own 2, 10, etc. There are multiple examples of people like that. I think that's a good place for us to start, because so many people will get, myself included, have gotten jobs just to get them from point A to point B, and that mindset is really limiting. It's really inflexible, and it doesn't allow for the type of growth that you, dear listener, are obviously interested in. So let's talk about the mindset shift to career. It's long term. You want to learn how to gather and leverage skills and experience for greater value. If you're not an entrepreneur, you're not a business owner, you're not the person who is creating the value. You've got somebody else's system that's creating value, but you're working within that, and you're still part of the value creation and trading the value. And when you become more skilled, more experienced, and that's how you can garner higher wages. I know a guy, he's got a small business. It's doing pretty well. It took a dry spell, and this person spent quite a few years in the food service industry. So there's a big hotel here in town. They're going into their busy season, and they were begging this guy to come back. Well, he agreed that he would come back for a short term, and they hired him in a pretty large 6-figure salary. This is a guy that works in food service. Why does he garner $120,000 or $130,000 a year as a starting salary at this place? Well, even though he has no credentials, he doesn't have any license of any kind, because he's taken his life seriously, he's taken his career seriously, and in the food service world, he has a reputation for being a guy that knows what he's talking about, that understands the systems and processes, knows how to deliver value to customers. So he himself is valuable in that marketplace. That's just one example. So he's got a career. Now his career is also part entrepreneurial, which is super exciting also. That's a very risky path. It's the path that I've taken the last 18 years. 17 and a half, 18 years. So I don't want to encourage you like, oh, you have to go run a startup. I believe that 95% of all startup companies fail. So I'm not here to tell you like you need to go start the next AI company or the next, Meta. Those are some of the largest returns. And if you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad's Guide to Investing, he'll break down lots of asset classes and sort of comes full circle at the end of the book, reminding the reader or the listener that the highest profit yields, the highest return on investment you're ever going to get from any asset is going to be a de novo startup, like from the beginning, something that you built. But the reason the profit potential is so high is because it doesn't come without a lot of associated risks. So startup companies are very, very risky. It's not what I'm suggesting you go do. If you follow Codie Sanchez online, she is a super smart entrepreneur. She's been involved in a lot of startups. She also advocates for what she calls Main Street millionaires. She advocates that you buy existing small businesses that are cash flowing. That's a quick way. What do they call it in mergers and acquisitions? They call it multiplication through addition. So that's her whole shtick. She talks about how to find, vet, and then acquire small businesses that are already cash flowing. This has a really high success rate. That's a much safer way if you want to go the entrepreneurial way. Again, you don't have to. Your career is going to take a path, hopefully, that you have chosen and can pivot and shift as you go. You can change your mind as you go. This video, I really want to talk about the difference in mindset. Do I have a job? This is just until something better comes along. Getting to financial freedom with a mindset like that is, I hope you win the lottery or something. Because if you're going to spend, the 90,000 hours in your lifetime working, why not aim those hours at something that builds upon itself, something that builds momentum, something that eventually, after enough front-loaded effort and time, you can reduce how much time you're working, spend it with your family or traveling or playing music or painting or giving your time to good causes, whatever it is you want to spend your time doing. Let's talk about the compound effect. So if we're shifting away from job mindset and into career mindset, a guy that I follow, Alex Hormozy, likes to say when you're young and you're unskilled, the one asset you have a lot of, the one resource you have a lot of is energy. So if you're young and you're just getting your shit together, what you do have is a lot of energy. You can work for a pretty low wage and learn a lot. You can learn how to add skills to your existing skill set, your skill base. You can also get the experience of working in different environments. That all translates to more value over time. And only if you let the compound effect take. And that doesn't take unless you've really focused energy for a period of time. I'm not going to tell you what periods of time it takes. There are books and authors out there that suggest that 10,000 hours at anything relatively makes you an expert. I'm not here to tell you how accurate that is. But in a general way, the more time you spend doing something like that, something focused and specific, the better you're going to get at it, right? Practice makes better. So one idea on when you're looking at your career, particularly if you're young, is look at a career path, something that interests you, a space you'd want to work in. Maybe do some research on what does the profit potential look like? Could I have equity one day? Could I be an owner one day in this space? Maybe not within this company, but maybe I can get the experience I need in this company I'm working at now with this dead-end job. Is not really a dead-end job at all for me because I intend to learn how this company operates, the whole operations. I want to learn how it works financially. I want to learn how the org chart was assembled, how it grows and shifts over time, how it pivots to changes in the marketplace. Now you've got a career, even if you've got a job, because you've got a career mindset. So the first thing I want to ask you to do is identify a career path. What industry or skill set can I spend my time in that will increase my earning potential over the next, say, 5 to 10 years? Even if that means starting an entry-level position, you may discover that you can build a career even in the industry you're already working in. I've known people that worked in sales for a long time, not really working there for any reason other than those are the only jobs anybody would ever give them, and then had an epiphany one day like, I only work in sales. Why don't I just get really good at learning how to close deals? And then their profit potential just shot through the roof. Let's talk about credentials or lack of credentials. If you have a specialized education and credentials, you may want to have a fresh look at what you could do to deliver bigger value than you are currently using those credentials. For example, if you're a therapist, if you're a licensed therapist, and you're working someplace for a small practice, and you're seeing clients, and you're making $60,000 to $80,000 a year, and you want to earn more. A simple next step is to get independent licensure. It's not a big leap once you're already a licensed clinician. With independent licensure, yes, you could have your own private practice. Additionally, you could stand as a clinical director for any number of outfits, which should garner a six-figure salary as a start. Then you could see patients or clients in between or in addition to that, and you could start to build real revenue potential. I also want to talk about lack of credentials. So somebody like me who dropped out of high school, I don't have any degrees. I never spent any meaningful time in college. I did end up getting a high school diploma when I was 21. If anybody Googles me and tries to figure out if I'm full of shit or not, I dropped out. I went to Arcadia High School. I dropped out. I should have graduated in 95. I did not. I later went back, it must have been 97 or 98. I went back to Gateway Community High School, and I got a high school diploma from that institution at the very last, the bottom of the ninth, right before you're not allowed to get them anymore. So I did finish my high school education. I tell you that to impress upon you, I didn't come into this business game, with a lot of credentials, a lot of resources, or a lot of support. I didn't come from a wealthy family that encouraged me to get an MBA and paid for school and all this. I just didn't come from that. I learned this stuff by reading books and by attempting what I read from these really smart people. They call it, standing on the shoulders of giants. I just tried applying what these authors were trying to convey in my own career. And some of it didn't work, and some of it did. And over the years, I've learned my place, and I've forged my own career. And I've done that without credentials. You can build a lot of valuable skills in a number of areas that deliver huge value, garner higher reimbursement, whether that's directly to an employer or to directly to the market, just through experience and by focusing your effort in an area for a period of time, a longer period of time. The longer you do something, the better you get at it. You know, a lot of people grow up playing football or basketball or baseball, and that wasn't my experience. I liked football. I just didn't play much sports growing up. You know what I did? For whatever reason, I ended up on a skateboard a lot. And at 47 years old, I still skateboard. And, you know, 10 to 14-year-olds in the skate park they usually look at me a little wild when they see that I'm pretty good on a skateboard for an old guy. Well, I didn't pick up skateboarding last year because I thought it was cooler because my kids are doing it. I've been skateboarding my whole life. And so as a default, I just happen to be good at skateboarding. It's not because I'm particularly smart. I've just eaten shit a lot on a skateboard and gotten back up, which I actually think is a pretty good parallel for business and life in general. Skill stacking, we've talked about developing skills. I want to talk about the profit potential of combining skills. So there's a lot of skills that are very complementary. For example, if you combine marketing with data analytics, that's a lot more valuable. If you combine sales with public speaking, exponentially more valuable. If you can combine operations with management, these are the roles I just outlined can garner very, very high salaries even when you're working for somebody else. So skill stacking is something I really want you to research. What am I good at now? What am I interested in becoming good at if I'm not really good at anything? And what are things that I want to be good at that have complementary skills that I could also learn and add to my stack? Tracking progress, I think, is important. We're going to do an entire series on goal setting, so I'm not really going to wade too far into that water today, but I do think it's important to track your progress. I do think it's important to set goals and to put some measurables with time frames on them so that you can, even if you fail miserably and you still hit your target with 60 or 70% success, that's still forward movement. So in the next video, we're going to get into the combination of work and investing. If you're just joining us and you want to nerd out and follow along more closely, please go to struggleandstrive.co, download the study guide, and we will see you in the next episode.